My name is George Sodder, and for 30 years, I have lived in two worlds. There is the world of this present day, 1975, a world of quiet routines and an empty house in Fayetteville, West Virginia. And there is the world of Christmas Eve, 1945, a world of fire and questions that have burned in my soul ever since. We were a large family, my wife Jenny and I, with 9 children filling our small home with laughter and chaos. I was a businessman, a proud man, building a life with my own hands. That Christmas Eve, we'd celebrated. The older children, Maurice, Martha, Louis and Jenny, had stayed up late, their excitement for the morning a tangible thing in the air. The younger ones, Betty, Marion, John, George, and Sylvia, were asleep in their beds. I was the last to turn in, checking the embers in the hearth, making sure everything was safe. The phone call came just past midnight. A wrong number, a woman's voice asking for a name I didn't know. I grumbled and went to bed, the odd call forgotten. The fire started an hour later. I was jolted awake by a crash on the roof, followed by the smell of smoke. I rushed downstairs to find flames already climbing the walls near the fuse box. I screamed for Jenny to get the children out. The chaos that followed is a blur of heat, panic, and terror. We managed to get 4 of the older children out. Jenny and I, believing the younger 5 had escaped out the back, focused on the ones we could see. But they hadn't escaped. The house, built of strong wood and love, became an inferno in minutes. It collapsed into a smoldering crater before the fire truck, a volunteer crew with a failing pump, could even arrive. As dawn broke on Christmas Day, we stood in our pajamas, staring at the ashes that had been our home and our life. We were told the intense heat had cremated the bodies of our 5 missing children. There would be no remains to bury. That was the official story. But from that moment, I knew it was a lie. The fire chief pointed to the hot-burning coal in our basement furnace. An electrical fault, he said. A tragic accident. But I was an electrician by trade. I had installed that wiring myself, to code. I had checked it just weeks before. It was sound. Then the memories started to return, pieces of a puzzle that didn't fit. The strange phone call. The ladder I kept propped against the house for roof repairs, it was gone that night. My 2 work trucks, parked in the driveway, wouldn't start. Their ignition systems had been tampered with, and the crash on the roof. A neighbor came forward weeks later, his conscience heavy. He told me he'd seen a strange object, like a ball of fire, arc through the sky and land on our roof just before the blaze began. It wasn't a sound he'd heard, it was an object he'd seen. Jenny and I refused to believe our children were dead. How could a fire, hot as it was, consume 5 bodies without a single trace? Not a tooth, not a bone, not a fragment of the metal bed frames they slept on? It was impossible. We began our own investigation, a quest that would consume our lives and our savings. We turned the fire site into a garden, refusing to build on it, a silent testament to our belief. We hired private investigators and followed every lead, no matter how faint. And the leads did come. A bus driver from a neighboring state came forward. He swore that in the early hours of Christmas morning, he saw a car pulled over on the road near our property. A man and a woman were standing with a group of children, who were crying and looked frightened. The driver said he stopped to ask if they needed help, but the man waved him off, saying, "They're just scared." We had a fire. Then there was the photograph, the one that shattered our world all over again. 3 years after the fire, we received an anonymous letter in the mail. There was no return address, just a postmark from Florida. Inside was a single photograph of a young man in his late teens. He had a strong jaw, dark hair, and a familiar, intense gaze. Scribbled on the back were the words, "Louis Sodder, I love brother Frankie." Illegible. A 90132 or 35. It was our son. Older, but unmistakably our Louis. The resemblance was chilling. The note seemed to be a coded message, or perhaps a fragment of one. A90132. Was it an address? An inmate number? We hired detectives to Florida. We scoured records, but the trail went cold. The photograph was a ghost, a piece of evidence that screamed kidnapping, but led nowhere. So, if it wasn't an accident, who would do this? And why? I am a man of strong opinions. I was an immigrant from Italy who spoke out loudly against Mussolini and his fascists. In our small town, this made me enemies. Just months before the fire, an insurance salesman had come to my door. We argued about Mussolini. As he left, he looked me dead in the eye and said, "Your house is going to burn down, and your children are going to be destroyed." I dismissed it as angry words. After the fire, They echoed in my mind with the force of a prophecy. We began to believe the fire was a cover. A kidnapping, orchestrated to punish me, or perhaps to take our children and raise them in a different ideology, to wipe us from their memories. The missing ladder suggested someone used it to reach the children's windows. The tampered trucks ensured we couldn't chase them. The strange object on the roof was an incendiary device, designed to start a fast, hot, confusing fire. The coroner's inquest was a farce. They ruled the cause of the fire faulty wiring, and the children presumed dead. We were left with a hollow victory on paper and a cavern of loss in our hearts. 4 years, we kept the story alive. We put up a billboard with the children's pictures and our phone number. We appeared on television shows. We followed every sighting, every tip. We heard rumors our daughter Betty was living in a convent, that John had been seen in New York. We chased them all. They all led to dead ends, but each one fueled our hope that somewhere, our children were alive. Jenny passed away 2 years ago. She never stopped believing. She would look at the photograph of Louis and say, "He has my father's eyes." She was sure of it. I am an old man now. The billboard is faded. The phone doesn't ring with tips anymore. The world has moved on. But in the quiet of this house, which is too big for one man, I still hear the echoes. I think of them every day. Maurice, the responsible one. Martha, with her mother's smile. Louis, so full of life. Betty, so gentle. And little Sylvia, just 2 years old. What lives did they live? Did they remember us? Were they told we had died in the fire? Did they ever try to find their way home? The official case is closed. It's a cold case, a footnote in the annals of strange American mysteries. But for me, it will never be closed. The not knowing is a prison. The true crime was not just the fire, or the potential kidnapping. The true crime was the silence, the failure of a system to look beyond the easy answer, the cruelty of a mystery that offers just enough hope to make the despair unbearable. So I leave you with this, not as a story with an ending, but as a testament. A testament to a parent's love, which is a force more enduring than any fire, and a warning that the greatest mysteries are not always in the shadows, but sometimes in the plain light of day, hidden behind a verdict of accident and the ashes of a forgotten home. If you ever meet someone with a familiar sadness in their eyes, a story they can't quite remember, a name that feels just out of reach, please, tell them about the Sodders. Tell them a man named George is still waiting for his children to come home.